If it wasn't for girly music, I'd probably kill myself.
The pop girls are girling like never before. Not since the early 2000s has mainstream pop been this good. So I thought it would be fun to do a little video sort of from a marketing standpoint talking about what I feel are the 4 categories that a pop star could fall into, as well as the types of fame, longevity, career projection, and the pitfalls that stars in each of these categories could expect. Obviously, we are talking pop stars in this video, but with some tweaking, this concept could apply to types of influencers, actors, other genres of music, etc., etc. Now, some quick ground rules before we dive in. First, I'm using pop star fairly loosely. These artists are going to be pop or pop adjacent, star or star adjacent. Also, some explanation for the chart. I tried to keep it to living female solo pop stars famous in the US. No groups. Lastly, some of my categorizations might be controversial, so I would love to hear any changes that you would have made and who else you would have liked to see included on the chart. So believe it or not, I started writing this script ages ago when JLo's movies first came out, and she was really the inspiration to finally push this concept out of my head into a video. So we're going to start with her category, which I'm calling the entertainer category. And the entertainer is a performer who puts on a huge production. Maybe she has great energy and stage presence. Maybe she puts on a big theatrical experience. She's almost always a talented dancer, and in some cases like JoJo Siwa, sometimes people just show up just to see her crazy antics. No matter the reason, this pop star's entertainment factor is her main draw. The singing, instrumental, and songwriting talents come secondary to the visual experience that this performer is providing. And this is why JLo is here in this category. She isn't a singer or an artist, she's an entertainer. People don't buy tickets to hear her sing live, they buy tickets to see her perform. Entertainer is by far the easiest and quickest category to break into, and while being a good singer isn't necessarily a requirement, it is a huge bonus and could help an up-and-coming entertainer build a following and then transition into one of the other 3 categories. And career longevity is one of the main reasons that a pop star might want to jump to a different category, since with things like age, pregnancies, and other major life changes, it becomes harder and harder to keep up with all the intense choreography, the fitness standards, the hot body for all the often very tiny costumes, etc., etc. Unfortunately, the ways in which people expect to see pop stars, and especially female entertainers, perform can be really very limiting. And for those reasons, to maintain relevancy, it can be beneficial to make an attempt to jump to one of the other 3 categories that have a little more longevity. A couple examples of once A-list entertainers that have struggled to remain relevant for a multitude of reasons include Paula Abdul, Nelly Furtado, Fergie, and of course JLo, who were all major pop stars in their day but have nearly faded away despite having once very promising careers. Entertainers struggle with timelessness and are often heavily tied to a specific era. Once the era is over, they're often left behind. However, there are absolutely permanent A-list legacy entertainers who have had long careers, like Tina Turner, Cher, and Madonna, who will all be remembered and truly have made their mark on history. I think Rihanna is a modern example of a star who will have this type of trajectory, and Britney Spears and Janet Jackson are also legacy entertainers who both lost relevance for reasons outside of their own control. But despite this, they will be remembered forever as some of the greatest entertainers of their time. In fact, Britney is actually a great example of why being an entertainer isn't sustainable for most. Her career suffered greatly when she began struggling to keep up with the very high standards and expectations that she had set for herself early in her career. It just wasn't sustainable. You probably remember when she very famously received a lot of nasty criticism when she performed at a heavier weight shortly after giving birth to her son. And I spoke about both Britney and Janet a fair bit in my Justin Timberlake video if you want to learn a little bit more about their unfair experiences in the entertainment business. Now, I also mentioned that vocal talent isn't a requirement for this category, but there are very talented singers on this side of the graph as well, and those include Tate McRae, Katy Perry, and Dua Lipa. And both Dua Lipa and Ice Spice recently received a lot of criticism for their lack of stage presence, and that's a big sign that they're both being pushed into this category. People are telling them how they want to experience their music live, and as a new artist, it's comply or die. And Dua specifically really understood the assignment, and we saw this with her SNL performance when she sang a significantly slower, less dancey song than her usual, and she still managed to give us a little dance moment, a smoke machine, and drama with the lighting. Ice Spice, however, continues to catch a lot of flack for being an entertainer who struggles to be entertaining. Doja Cat is an example of someone who really didn't take off until she marketed herself as an entertainer. Like I said, it's the easiest way to break into the industry. I was a huge fan in 2015, and at that point her music was fairly melancholic and not very entertaining.
And no one's gonna want you if you cry for help. Just cry, baby.
But it wasn't until she got a taste of fame years later with Moo when people saw her funny personality and fell in love with her. And she understood the assignment and changed up her sound and saw major success. Again, this is how fans wanted to experience her, so she leaned into it to become more mainstream, and she basically said as much with this tweet that caused a lot of controversy. Pink has revived her career after a slump by taking her entertainment factor up to the extreme. This is one of her performances from 2003. She's always been in incredible shape and confident with a phenomenal voice. But tell me that Pink flying across the sky on bungee cords isn't upping the entertainment factor. And the fact that she's still singing live while doing all of this is crazy impressive. Okay, so that's the entertainer. Now let's move to the other category where pop stars commonly start their careers, and that is as the artist. The artist takes her art seriously. Maybe she writes her own songs or plays instruments. Maybe her voice is her instrument and she experiments with unique singing styles. The focus of the performance is on her voice, her storytelling, her artistic vision, and her vulnerability. Artists usually have less immediate popularity but have more longevity than entertainers, and that's because even if they lose mainstream relevance, they've often developed a loyal cult following who can relate to the artist, sometimes on a soul level. Not all, but many artists could show up to their concerts in jeans and a t-shirt and sit on a stool for the entirety of the performance, and fans would still love it. And in that way, they're the polar opposite of entertainers. Artists include Kate Bush, Bjork, Ethel Cain, Joanna Newsom, Lauryn Hill, Melanie Martinez, and FK Twigs. Mitski is an example of a popular artist who isn't incredibly mainstream. You don't hear her songs on the radio or shows or movies, but despite that, she's developed a huge following who connect with her on a very emotional level. She's a songwriter, she plays several instruments, and she has a really unique sound. She's an artist through and through. And while calling her a pop star is a big stretch, I'm leaving her in as an example anyway. Sevdaliza is one of my all-time favorite artists, and now that her song Alibi is starting to pop off on TikTok, I feel like I can dedicate a little more time in this video to her. Sevdaliza is in a league of her own. She's experimental with her sounds, costumes, visuals, music videos. Much like Chapel, she is the definition of your favorite artist's favorite artist. And she's definitely been inspiration to a lot of larger pop stars. Also, Kali Uchis, who before becoming famous was using music as a creative outlet in secret. She randomly dropped an album one night just for fun and accidentally became an overnight success. Now, a rare example of somebody who transitioned from artist to entertainer is Avril Lavigne. Avril started her career with singles that we are all familiar with, like Complicated and Skater Boy, but the rest of her discography was pretty vulnerable, sullen, angsty, and raw. raw. She took her music very seriously, and her concerts were usually just her and her band, no dancers and no gimmicks. And this was because she was an artist. She wrote her songs, played piano, guitar, and drums, and she had a very pretty voice and a strong personal branding. I loved this era from her. And with all of these great attributes, she could have easily aged gracefully into the artist category, similar to Alanis Morissette or Fiona Apple, as an edgier pop artist who writes and performs music with a lot of personal meaning and vulnerability. But instead, she did something so unpredictable and drastic that to make sense of it, fans have theorized that she literally died and was replaced by a doppelganger. And that was when she made the switch from artist to entertainer. Though I'm quite sure this switch had more to do with personal growth and wanting to have more fun as she grew out of her angsty teen years than it did a massive conspiratorial cover-up. And lastly, but not leastly, Lana Del Rey, who has spent a lot of time on world building and storytelling in her songs, and has also experimented with her sound thoroughly, which is evidenced by many of her released tracks, as well as her infamous SNL performance.
Walked into the room, you know you made my eyes burn. Feeling alright. She praised the rosary.
You look like a Florida native. Sway Tokyo.
She genuinely treats her music as art, and she's not afraid to experiment, even if it makes her music less mainstream.
My thoughts are not for sale. They're about nothing and beautiful and for free.
Okay, now the next category we have is what I'm calling the full package. This pop star has high production value concerts. They can sing, they can dance, they have incredible stage presence, but they also have a solid artistic vision as well. Maybe they songwrite or play an instrument, or maybe they have just a really exceptional voice. Either way, they don't really fit into either of the prior categories because they have equalish parts from both. Billie is a great example of a full package entertainer. We know that she and her brother write and produce their music. We know that Billie can put on a top tier high energy performance, and we also know that she can hold her audience's attention just sitting down singing a ballad. Taylor Swift is another pop star who made it into this category. After developing her voice and songwriting as an artist, she began to focus more on production value, costumes, and choreography. People show up to the Eras Tour for both the high production value, but also the emotional connection that they have to her music. Beyoncé is here as well for similar reasons. Through her world building, costumes, choreography, vocal talent, and her ability to reinvent herself, she really puts on a full package show. Lady Gaga scraped her way out of the entertainer category after a rebrand when she started performing with Tony Bennett and appeared in A Star Is Born. She showed that she doesn't need to hatch out of eggs or wear meat dresses to hold the audience's attention. That's just a part of her artistic expression and is what created enough buzz around her in the first place in order to create a following that allowed her to break free from the entertainer category. A couple up-and-coming full package pop stars include Sabrina Carpenter and Chappell Roan, who are equal parts vocal talent and natural entertainer. And then to a lesser extent, Madison Beer, but first she really needs to gain more confidence performing and work on her branding problems. And full package is the category that most easily sets you up for superstardom because you tap into a much wider audience than artists or entertainers. Full packages have a little something for everyone. But because of those entertainer qualities, many full packages will eventually slow down and move themselves over to either the artist category, where creative expression can become their main focus, or to our last category. I'm calling this one the greats, and these are our vocal powerhouses. And I want to expand beyond the classic answers like Mariah Carey, Kelly Clarkson, and Christina Aguilera to include the newer generation of greats like Ariana Grande, Cynthia Erivo, Demi Lovato, and Halle Bailey, as well as opening it up to a wider range of more unique voices like Amy Winehouse and Miley Cyrus. All of these women can carry a show with their voice alone. In fact, that's the only real qualification for this category. A great doesn't need to have any creativity or songwriting abilities or the ability to dance or play an instrument. They just need to show up with their voice and the audience will be locked in. Everything else is a bonus. In fact, many greats intentionally choose to be on stage alone. They want it to just be them and their band so that their voice can be the main focus. Though that doesn't mean that greats never utilize a little choreography. Many of them have Broadway backgrounds, so they are fully capable of putting on a show. The difference is that they don't need to. Their voice is going to outshine everything else anyway. Nobody is leaving an Adele concert unimpressed, thinking she should add some choreography. Their music is often timeless, so as long as their voice is healthy, so is their career. And a few last greats who aren't quite household names yet, but are steadily rising are Renee Rapp, Ray, Dove Cameron, and Jhené Aiko. So who are your favorite artists, and where on the chart would you put them? All right, I'm done. Leave your artist recommendations below. I am always checking out new music. Thanks for watching, and let me know if you like this style of video as kind of a break from my usual video essays, or if I should never do this again. Okay, anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.